Welcome back. The Senate Budget Committee greenlighting its two-tracked reconciliation plan yesterday. The plan includes new spending for border security and defense, while the second bill will focus on extending Trump's 2017 tax cuts. The House, meanwhile, hoping to pass Trump's agenda in one sweeping bill. The House Budget Committee set to mark up new draft legislation today, calling for a minimum of $1.5 trillion in spending cuts over a decade and a maximum of $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. It would also increase the federal debt limit by $4 trillion, while including $300 billion in new border and defense spending. Joining me now is Kansas Senator and member of the Senate Budget Committee, Roger Marshall. Senator, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, Maria, it's great to be with you as well.
So what should we understand about the Senate version of these two bills, and what's your timing on it? When do you expect to have the first bill on the president's desk to sign?
Right. I think to answer your question, I think it needs to be before March 14th, because that's when the funding deadline for the government happens. But I would look at what we did yesterday in the Budget Committee is we unlocked the door to be able to fund President Trump's campaign promises. So what we're going to do is to prioritize funding to secure the border, to improve the military, to unleash American energy, and then finally bring some fiscal sanity back to America. So we're lowering the top line from $7 trillion a year of spending down to 6.1. That should actually help bring interest rates down if you think about it. If the federal government's printing less money, I think that'll start bringing interest rates down.
Well, that's certainly positive, knowing that over COVID, we had mandatory spending get bigger and bigger with lots of spending, overdoing it after COVID, and then somehow putting it in the column of mandatory. Can you cut some of that quote unquote mandatory spending?
Absolutely, and that is the plan. I think that the Budget Committee has spent the last actually 6 weeks trying to figure out what's a good top line number, and we came up with 6.1 trillion, again lowering from 7 to 6.1, and now we're going to send it out to those authorizing committees and figure out where we can trim and cut and live within that budget.
And of course, the president needs his team on the ground. You've got newly confirmed Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, now confirmed, sworn in at the White House yesterday. Here's the president speaking at this swearing-in ceremony. Watch.
We're delighted to swear in our next Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Most of you know Tulsi. She's a fantastic woman. Tulsi, I want to just congratulate you. Tulsi Gabbard's an American of extraordinary courage and exceptional patriotism. She's devoted her entire life to public service, and I've watched her for years on different shows and everything. I said, she's a woman of great common sense.
The Senate is expected to confirm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Health and Human Services Secretary today at 10:30 a.m. Is that in line with your expectations? I know you created the Make America Healthy Again caucus.
Yeah, Maria, we will vote on Bobby today. I expect him to get through. It's going to be party lines. The Democrats are hung up. It's kind of amazing to me. If Bobby had been nominated by Joe Biden, it would have been called a brilliant move. But since it's Donald Trump that nominates him, all of a sudden he's a Vulcan or something. So I'm looking forward to working with Bobby. We are going to make America healthy again. 60% of Americans have a chronic disease today. We need to figure out why, how come, what can we do from a nutrition standpoint, what can we do to decrease the environmental toxins and the food additives that are toxins to face those type of challenges as well. So I look forward to the vote this morning.
And we should point out, you're a doctor. You've seen this play out in real time, the fact that it's incredibly critical to get ahead of disease.
Yeah, exactly. You know, in my OB practice over 25 years, I saw the rate of type 2 diabetes just explode. And that really was a major determinant of morbidity and mortality for moms and the babies as well.
Yeah.
So you're right. I've been fighting this for 25 years. And now it's unfortunately 40% of our youth, our adolescents have diabetes, or at least are morbidly obese. So we've got a problem, and let's face it and let's fix it.
No, that's great. I'm so happy to hear you say that. But, you know, the Democrats are fighting everything. They are trying to stop Trump, and of course they're also fighting this Department of Government Efficiency. It's trying to work on cost-cutting measures, saving taxpayers millions, and the agency canceled over 58 contracts, including a $1 million Gender X initiative at the Social Security Administration, a $1 million agricultural contract on diversity communications, and a $4 million DEI training program at the Labor Department. Senator, what's going on here? I know you're the founding member of the DOJ caucus in the Senate, but I want to get your take on how all of this got through in terms of all of this money being spent on diversity and transgenderism, even in the Social Security Administration.
Yeah, I think there's a lack of transparency. This is the swamp that USAID refused to show us, to tell us what they're doing. They won't let us look at itemized spending. The same way with the military, though. Let's cast stones in all different directions as well. But I think there's a huge opportunity here. Last year, the federal government sent out $250 billion of improper payments. That's what the Government Accounting Office told us. $250 billion. Our inspector generals missed all that. And I think that's one of the problems. And I think just yesterday I saw President Trump let some of those inspector generals go. We need to make sure that we don't have foxes watching the hen house. So President Trump's figuring it out. There's things he can do. And now Congress needs to go behind him and clean up this mess as well. We have a job to do as well here.
Well, it's pretty incredible that, this is happening now. I mean, there's so much waste. Were you aware of how much waste there was? And how much do you think President Trump and Elon Musk, with their work, can actually raise or cancel out of all of this wasteful spending?
Yeah, again, we're spending $7 trillion a year here. We're only taking in 5. We're spending 7. So my goal is to find $1 trillion of waste, and then we trim our budget back $1 trillion, and then we get to a balanced budget. Then your interest rates come down, and it helps the housing problem you all were just talking about.
Yeah, and of course, I mentioned the president's executive order on housing, one of the first that he did. Senator, give us your sense of what your priorities are right now. Once the cabinet is confirmed, are you all just focused on executing that agenda? And do you expect at the end of the day it'll be those 2 tracks as opposed to what the House is working on one big bill?
Yeah, so my priority is prosperity and security. That's what the president ran on. Let's make Americans safe. Let's make them prosperous. We make them prosperous by rolling back regulations, fighting inflation, lowering energy costs. Healthcare is a big driver of inflation right now. We should come back and talk about as well. So those will be our priorities. I don't care whether it's 1 bill or 3 bills. I think come March the 1st, President Trump will look and see, is the House making significant progress? Are his priorities included? And if it's one big, beautiful bill and they can get there, then super. And they'll probably just absorb what we're doing as well. If they're not, we'll take this off in 2 or 3 bites of the apple. But at the end of the day, failure's not an option. If we don't get to extend the Trump tax cuts, American families have $1,000 a month of tax increases. So failure is not an option.
I mean, it sounds all very positive, and yet your colleagues on the left are complaining every day about it.
Well, let them complain. I would just say right now is they're lost. They don't know where they are. I said it just yesterday or the day before. If this were an MMA fight right now, the Democrats would be tapping out. They'd be crying uncle. They don't. They are just lost. They've lost their confidence. So they're just out there flailing and screaming right now. Meanwhile, let's stay locked in. Let's execute a simple plan very well.
All right, Senator, we'll be watching your work. Thanks so much.